Hello. I almost opened the wrong one. I mean, I didn't almost. I did open the wrong one. I found my serial number for SparkoCam, so I'm no longer encumbered by the SparkoCam logo. It's a great logo, great company. Don't think that I need to have it above my head. Okay, let's see what you guys been working on. Oopsies. Cinnamon dioxide. I haven't heard anything from them in a while. Thank you, Will. Appreciate that. Okay, let's have a listen to this one. Okay, I think the chords are a bit weird. I kind of see where you're going with it, but the way that the chords roll into each other doesn't feel natural to me. I do like that the old lady synth, though. I think the old lady lead synth is cool. So I would say what you should maybe focus on is doing a little bit of research into the chord structure and how one chord kind of leads into the next chord. If we take an example, let's go here. And I'm sure I have something that we could use. Of course, I pull up the only thing that's not a synth. Just Labs piano. So, and I'm not an expert on chord structure or anything like that, but one thing that kind of was a bit of an eye-opening moment, I keep interrupting myself with the piano, was to understand that, like if we just take a very simple 4-chord structure, sure. Okay, oops. Let's make it a bit faster so we don't have to wait as long for there. Okay, so now let's, do the typical, we'll do a third. And put it up an octave maybe. Sure, here's an interesting chord progression maybe. And we'll bring this up an octave as well. So if we keep adding to these chords, if we keep adding notes to this chord, sure, I'm just kind of wheeling and dealing here. Okay, so one thing that you can notice is if I just take these notes and put them maybe down an octave, if you try to imagine this as a bit of a melody, so let's ignore these for a second, you can see there's kind of a big jump between these. Actually don't really know where I'm going with this. This is a weird chord progression. Sure, okay. So these two notes are kind of chilling by themselves, and these two notes are kind of chilling by themselves. Nick, you're putting a B with an E flat. Okay, what's your point? You don't like the B with wait a minute. Where or unless you're behind, unless the stream is behind. if you think about each section of the chord as kind of a little melody on its own, and you try to get a little bit more like tension and release, if we can. So obviously that's not going to. Okay, let's go with that. I'm just like, this chord progression is not really working for me. Oops. It also feels like it wants to be like a dotted. Okay. I forgot what tempo we were at, that's why. Okay. Okay, we'll loop that. So woo. I'm kind of just like losing my mind a little bit right now, to be honest. Make the last D an F, okay. You really want that? I don't even remember what my original advice was. I think what I was trying to get at is like the way that these chords from the submitted track work, the notes in each chord don't really relate to the next chord that it's going into very much. There's not much melody. They just kind of feel like unrelated chords. I was expecting to be a G minor, not a jazzy G. I don't know. I mean, like, this is typically how I write chord progressions. I just fuck around until, sometimes I'll play it on the keyboard, but I'm not very good at playing on the keyboard, so sometimes I'll just fuck around. And if this was much slower. Okay. So now instead of, maybe we'll get rid of the G. Now we have a bit of a column response between, we got this, and this B feels like it's got some tension in it. It's almost the next note. And I think my original advice, even though I'm doing a terrible job at giving it, is that when you write a chord progression, you should really think about the tension and release and how this is building tension to get to the C, which is the next note of the next chord. So there's some sort of interaction between these two chords. Instead of thinking about just kind of like chord and then chord and then chord and then chord, if you think about the individual parts of the chords, there's a name for it. And when I started to go down this path, I thought I remembered how to do it, but I guess I'm just intuitively doing it. What if you loop it in on the second chord, you add a D, and the last chord, you add an F on the top octave? I feel like that's too complex for me to translate in my brain into clicking notes, so it probably is a good idea. I'm just not doing a good job. My advice, cinnamon dioxide, is to maybe just do, I guess I probably should do some research on chord progressions as well, because I think I've done them for so long that I just kind of mess around and like, I don't even necessarily know what this interval, I mean, I know it's a semitone from here to here, but I don't necessarily know why that adds like tension and releases it when it hits the C, but I just kind of intuitively know to do that because I've done it for so long. So maybe look up chord structures and how to lead from one chord into the next. Voicing is also important because if we put like, you know, let's jump some octaves here. So that's a bit of an extreme example, but you can see how that, if you put it down here, anyway, sorry, that was terrible advice. Yeah, the it's just the chord progression is just a little bit feels a bit arbitrary. So I would focus your efforts on not getting super crazy with the chords, but maybe starting off with some really typical four chord, you know, pop basic chord progressions and then expanding from there instead of like don't be afraid to use typical chord progressions, I think is what I'm trying to say, and add a little bit of spice on top as you go. Thanks, Ryan. It's white, but it has a black back. I don't know if that's important or not. Okay, great start, Nick. Wonderful. Okay, this one's called Counting the Day. I like the drone. I like the C sharp drone. I really like everything about this so far, except it doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere just based on the rest of the waveform. This was dope. I really like this, but I don't necessarily I feel kind of blue balls like where like I want like it to I want there to be a beat and there to be a thick bass and like I don't know, I feel like you're setting us up for something so good. I don't think it should end like this. I think you should I don't really know what the style would be. I'm not suggesting a big dubstep drop or anything like that, but I don't know. The only piece of advice I think I have for this one is that it just needs to be finished. It needs to have like I don't want to call it a drop. Uh when in doubt, drop the bass. Yeah, that's not necessarily bad advice. Yeah, I just I don't know. It sounds so good, and it sounds like it's leading up to some sort of like almost like Tennyson. Like I think I reference Tennyson one in every 5 streams, but I think Tennyson or Tennyson, I don't know how to say their name. I think that that would be a good reference track for this because it's really beautiful. I like everything that's there. I just don't like what's not there. Okay, really plowing through these. Expromatation. What does that word mean? That was very interesting. I think that you have a lot of bass and you have a lot of crispy top end, but I don't necessarily think there's a whole lot happening in the mid range of the track. I think that that's kind of what sticks out to me is that there's if you listen to each element, they either are like quite deep bass. How has it been since someone new subbed to me? I have no idea. I don't even know how to tell that. But thank you if somebody subscribed. I didn't get a notification. Yeah, I feel like every element in here is kind of either really deep bass or kind of like interesting high frequency stuff. No, I do care. But to be honest, I suck at I suck at Twitch so much that I don't even really know what a sub means. Does it mean that you paid money to be subscribed to me? Because I truly do appreciate that if that's what happened. But I just do music stuff, so I don't even know what Twitch stuff is. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And Kappa can vouch for me on that. I don't know anything about Twitch. Anyway, yeah, I think that this is just kind of missing like the mid range. But I like all of the interesting, unique shit in here. It's crazy. Is free if you have Prime Video. It's a 1 sub a month. He is a boomer that just wants to help people with his music. I would rather a sample package than sub to him. Yeah, I'm sorry if my reaction wasn't appropriate for what happened, but I truly just don't even understand. But now that you've explained it to me, thank you for and fuck off with the AI. But yes, thank you for the 1 month sub. Yeah, this track is very strange and unique. And I just think that it's missing kind of a melody. And maybe the melody could be the thing that fills in the mid-range of the track because it's just kind of missing that. That was for your 3 songs I like. Thank you. I'm glad that you like 3 of my songs. I don't even like 3 of my songs, so you like more of my songs than I do. Yeah, anyway, that's what I think about this track. I think it's an interesting almost experimentation or experimentation, which is maybe what that is actually what that stands for. I think it's an interesting experimentation, but arrangement wise, I'm not really like waiting for the I'm not following along the storyline. It kind of just feels like an experimentation in sound design. And I think that if you had a melody, then all of a sudden that might tie it together a little bit more. Or it doesn't have to be a typical melody like with a synth or a guitar or whatever. It can be anything. It could be a little hook that's like a cut up vocal thing, which I know there is something in here. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, okay, so I hear where do people you submit on my Discord server. Yeah, okay, you have this do 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 do. That's like that's a pretty strong hook, I think. But it's only used in this one section, I think. Yeah, so I think you might be able to solve a lot of your problems by treating that ding 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 ding. That's kind of like the main hook in my ears. It feels like that's the main idea of the song, and maybe having that throughout the track and structuring it. That would probably be a good way, at least to start getting the arrangement feeling a bit more cohesive. My streams are always the same. I stream on Fridays, yeah, and I listen to people's music and I give them my thoughts. And today I'm struggling with my thoughts for some reason. My brain is not working, but sometimes I have decent things to say, and sometimes I'm just an idiot. All right, that's what I think. This one's called "Getting Hot," Draft 11. I love all of the cash register sounds. It reminds me of that Dire Straits song. This is really good. I would probably say that the "It's Getting Hot" line should be more up front in the mix, because I almost like I had to go back and see. I had to go back and see if that was actually right before the drop. And it is, but it's kind of really subtle up until. Like, that's sick. I would probably drop with that the first time. Like, not this as the drop per se, but have it. Let's see if I can just do it. What's the tempo? Just to see what it sounds like. Release this as hot VIP VIP. Okay, and that's about the kick drum area. Okay, so. Oh, it's probably just 140, I'm assuming. It's not 141, right? Nobody would do that. Yeah, it's 140. Okay, so let's grab. It's good. It's good. Okay, the snare is getting. And I'm just going to take this little section and put it right here. I don't know. It might sound bad. Oh, actually, I fucked up. It goes here instead. Let's find out. And then let's move this here. Okay. It's good. Yeah, I think that's better. Let's try it like this instead. It's good. I wonder if we can just get rid of that snare like this. It's good. Yeah, I think that's better. I think it's better because it's the name of the song and it's the words that go before the drop. It's good. And then the rest of the drop can stay the same because it's dope. And then maybe you change it up a little bit here so it's not the exact same. But I think that right before the first drop, the words should be like in my face. I know what the words are. There's no mistaking them. And then I keep going. I like the acid bass line that's coming in. I think just like try this idea and then don't work on these drops anymore. Don't like put a Geneva Convention ban on working on those drops and only work on finishing the structure of the song. Don't go back and polish this anymore. This doesn't need polish. The track just needs the second half of the track to be made. And it sounds like you have an idea where you're going with it with that acid bass line. Don't work on the first two drops. Wait, are you making fun of me because I said it more than once or something? Anyway, that's what I would do. I would just maybe make this small adjustment and then move. Oh, Geneva Convention. Like put a Geneva Convention ban on working on the first two drops. I don't know. That's just, those are the words that I chose to use. Besides that, I mean, like mix, production, master, all that sounds pretty good to me. I don't really have any issues with it. I just want the track to keep going. So make the track keep going. All right, Goofy Jungle. Oh my gosh, there's going to be penis music. That was genuinely enjoyable. Definitely humorous. I would say you got to have like a breakdown halfway through. You got to and then you got to build this up. You got to like and then like maybe like low pass filter in the flute thing while there's like some weird build happening. I think that's what this is missing. Like an intro, like a short intro, which is goofy but not filled out goofy. Like this is kind of like right off the hop, it's just full throttle goofiness, which is great. But I think that if you lead us to it a little bit more gently over the course of 16 or 32 bars or something of interesting goofiness, and then you hit us with that, I think it'd be way better. And then if you gave us a break from the goofiness, so that when you bring the goofiness back in, it can have that same impact again, then I think you're winning. In terms of like the mix, I think that it's like lacking the high frequency range, but I don't know if that's part of the type of music that it is or whatever, but to me, I mean, I can add 5 or 6 decibels on of like high frequency, and it doesn't hurt my ears. There is a bit of crunchiness in it, so you might want to maybe select which parts of the track you boost that frequency range in instead of just boosting it on the master. So maybe there's some sounds that aren't quite as harsh as other sounds. There's a lot of, if you solo this, you can hear a lot of like distortion, like a lot of crunchiness. So maybe going through and picking out sounds that you could boost the high frequencies in without bringing out kind of too much of the crunchiness, then that might be a better approach than just boosting the high frequencies in the track. But I did find that the track overall kind of felt a little bit muted on the top end. Do you know how to make the lead sounds brighter, more present? I mean, you EQ the top end, probably. I don't know. I don't know that the lead sounds need to be more present or more bright. I think like maybe the percussion, like the hats and stuff, maybe that stuff can be a bit more bright, and that can give the whole track a bit more brightness without bringing out too much of the harshness of some of those distorted sounds. Like even the flute sounds like it's distorted and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that finding ways to inject a little bit of brightness into the track carefully is probably going to do you a lot of good. And then, like I said, have an intro and have a breakdown in the middle so that we have a bit of a break from like the constant like, wow, this is insane. What's up? Okay. That's what I think. I think it's a fun track. It's fucking weird, but like that's the point, right? And then also maybe throughout the track, go through and like mute certain stuff. I feel like a lot of the track has a lot of the same sounds happening all the time. So sometimes just going through and like pulling out like the percussion and just having like the doom 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 thing with the flute could be cool. I think you have a lot of elements to work with, and right now you're kind of giving them all to us kind of all at the same time. Am I ready to hear Alien Portal 2 music? I guess. That's what I think. I think it's cool. I think you should do the things that I said, or at least try them. Okay, this is called, I don't even know how to say that. It looks like a language which I'm not familiar with. Maybe something from Not This World. I really like the melody here. The kick drum is not following the same time signature. I'm assuming that's intentional, but it kind of throws me off a little bit. Okay, this is like Knife Party, 10 years ago, and it's cool, but it feels kind of unrelated to the rest of the track besides it being in the same key. So I think there needs to be something that goes between here and here that bridges the gap between Middle Earth and Knife Party. I think that it's a bit too abrupt of a shift of energy and tone and vibe to really work, because it's cool, but it's like it just kind of comes out of nowhere. Well, this sounds like, this just straight up sounds like Internet Friends, I think. Like, this sounds like a... Am I wrong, or...
Now you're going to die.
It's even in the same key. I feel like that could be an issue. I feel like it's okay to take inspiration from songs, but maybe not take every inspiration from the song. I just opened up something. Yeah, to me it feels a little too close to that track. So I don't know what advice to give you, except that this is just going to be a ripoff of a Knife Party song if it stays this way, because it's one thing to have like a certain synth sound that sounds very close to another synth sound from a different song, but when you have numerous same sounding synths playing the same kind of notes in the same kind of drums with the same kind of groove and the same kind of structure, it just, to me, it's too same. I don't think a clap is right for this. I think it should be a dubstep snare. Like the clap, it just doesn't, it's not the right. It needs to be like, you know, like a big dubstep snare for that. This straight up sounds like an Internet Friends remake at this point. I mean, like, the production and stuff is good on it, but yeah, it's too close. I do really like the Middle Earth kind of stuff too, though. It's cool. Maybe you should kill two birds with one stone and get it further away from Knife Party's Internet Friends and closer to the Middle Earth vibe that you've got going on in the non-drop sections, because that's kind of my two complaints, is that there's not really a lot of similarity between the stuff that isn't a drop and the stuff that is a drop. They just kind of feel like they've been kind of transplanted onto each other. And then my other complaint is that it's too close to Internet Friends. So maybe you can fix both of those things at the same time by, you know, removing the Knife Party and replacing it with more of the vibe of the Middle Earth stuff. It's cool. It sounds good, but it is too close to that song, in my opinion. Okay. This one's called Batter's Trap EDM. Okay, I was with you until it got here, and then I don't know what the point of this little, I shouldn't say little because it's not little, this big fake out is. Like, why are we not just going to the drop? Okay, the drop is big, but it's not like the kick drum. I don't think it doesn't sound like anything sidechained to the kick drum, so the kick drum isn't cutting through. Yeah, the fake out doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I just deleted it. But yeah, the kick drum, like for example, if I try to figure out what the tempo is here, just there's no way it's 135 maybe? No. Oh, maybe I just have it shifted a bit. Let's try 135. $134? What? How dare you? I think it's 134. Okay. Like, just grab a kick drum of any sort. Sure, it almost sounds like it's in the key of E, so. And then I'm going to just sidechain your whole track to this kick drum. Because I think there's a lot of girth here, but it's kind of a bit too undefined. It's too messy. It doesn't have the drums cutting through. And if it did, it would be way better, I think. So let's then get a snare that also punches through. Sure, whatever. We're not going for the perfect snare. We're going for a snare that demonstrates my point. And now I feel like I'm off by... Okay, let me figure out what the actual kick pattern is. Okay, let's assume that it just does that. Oops, my mouse. It probably doesn't, but whatever. We're gonna just say it does for now. It probably changes. Okay, so the snare to me is too like it's too low. Oh yeah, there's a kick. But you can already hear it. I don't love the snare sound on it. I like your snare sound on it, but I can't sidechain your track without sidechaining the snare out of it. So I'm just trying to like replace it with a snare. Whoops. But you see how, like, if you forget about the snare, like, let's just say fuck the snare for now and just focus on the kick drums. But see how, like, having that kick, the transient cut through more, is allowing the track to have a bit more definition, like it's got a sharper edge on the kick. So if we compare that against just your track, like the track doesn't have much rhythmic clarity. It's kind of just like noise. But sidechaining the whole thing into the kick drum, Yeah, I think you got to sidechain to your kick a little bit more, and maybe sidechain your cymbals, sidechain like most of anything that's creating like this wall of sound. Make your sidechain it to a kick drum so that that kick drum feels like it is so it's so powerful that it's able to push all of that noise out of the way for when it hits. That not only does it make the mix clearer, but it also implies that the kick drum is more powerful because it's able to push through the mix. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep going. I mean, I'm not saying there's no side chain. I'm just saying that I don't think it's side chained enough, or enough of the elements are side chained. Okay. What else? I also feel like you're kind of missing maybe a hook or something. You know, I mean, that's it's catchy. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like there's room for like something that happens periodically that kind of gives us something to look forward to, like a sound, or maybe it's the vocal thing. Maybe the music drops out and it's a blah 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 vocal thing and comes back in. I feel like in order to keep writing this and make it a full song, you're probably gonna have to figure something out, because you're gonna have to do a breakdown right after this drop, do a breakdown, and then you're gonna have to have the thing, the hook or the melody or the thing that is the main character of the song. That it, right now in the drop, it's kind of like all the synth work and the wubs and stuff that are really moving things forward, but you can't really have those in the breakdown per se because it's not a drop. So you're gonna have to come up with something for that breakdown section. Like right here, it's just kind of drums and like a funk vocal. Maybe there's a response to the you know, something like that, and then maybe you could do a more pared down version of that in the breakdown section. It could become kind of like a melody or a hook or something that maybe is played on a different instrument or a different sound or whatever, and that can be the theme that's carried through the track. But I think you're gonna have a hard time finishing the track if you don't figure out the hook, because it's going to really determine what happens here, which is then going to determine what happens here in the rest of the track. So I'd probably, you know, you could do the side chaining thing. That you could play around with the side chaining note that I gave you, but I wouldn't really focus any more time on this stuff, because I feel like you've spent a lot of time from here to here, and you get yourself into a rut. And then if you put so much time and effort into this one section, it's going to sound really good. And then when you go to try to make the next section, it's not going to sound really good because you're just starting it, and it's going to kind of throw off your inspiration, because you're like, oh man, though it's such a letdown when it gets past the drop and hits this breakdown section. So that's kind of the risk that you run when you focus all of your time and energy. And I'm not necessarily saying that you did, but I'm making an assumption that you probably have focused a lot of time on the drop section. When you focus a whole bunch of time and energy and spend a bunch of time working on this one section, it becomes very strong, right? And polished and produced. And then you go to the next section and it's like, fuck, like I got a hi-hat loop, you know, like, it sucks. And then it kicks you out of the inspiration. So if I were you, I would probably stop working on this until you have the rest of the arrangement finished, because it's just going to keep getting harder and harder and harder to finish writing the song. Okay. Next up, we got Morse code that I don't know what it says, but I'm sure it's vulgar. Wow, that was unsettling. What was the inspiration for this one? I don't really know what to tell you. It is very. I think unsettling is probably the best word for it. I think that it's a little creepy. It makes me feel like I'm being hunted. And I'm being hunted by somebody who's good at hunting. I found a cool preset on Analog Lab V intro. I don't know. That's cool. I've heard enough Sunsman Armada. I definitely encourage you experimenting, because here's the thing. From a mainstream music, pop music, whatever standpoint, this is too far. You've gone too far, but you've got to go too far to learn what is in between not far enough and too far. If you don't go too far, you don't know what's on the edge of just far enough to be really interesting, but not otherworldly, So in terms of being a song, this is very strange and gives me strange feelings, but I'm glad that you are experimenting and pushing your boundaries, because you don't know what you'll find between not far enough and too far. And this, I'm not saying this is too far, but it's probably too far to, come on to some white girl's playlist during a party. I don't know if people are going to be playing beer pong to this, but that's obviously not what it's meant for. Whereas your other tracks are more in that world. So I don't know. It was cool. I liked it. Thank you for sending. What did I do? Okay, Velcode. Sirens, almost there. It would be great. It's more of a atmosphere than it is a song, I guess. It's something to play at a spooky Halloween party when you want people to be a little scared. Okay, this is cool. I like this drop a lot. When you go dun dun, I like the noise kind of. I would call it maybe like crumpling a paper bag kind of sound synth. I don't know what the actual name of that synth is. It's very inharmonic. It's kind of noise. But maybe you should layer in something that has a bit more tonality, because I think on the there's one of the measures has dun dun, like it goes down 2 semitones and then back to the root, and I can kind of tell, but I can't. It's not obvious that you're doing that. So I think that when you do your initial dun dun at the start, if you kept that the same, but you layered in something that had a bit more tonality so we can hear the notes besides, because if you took out the sub bass from that section, you probably wouldn't really, you're kind of just guessing at the notes that are being played because it's so detuned and dissonant sounding, right? Which is cool. But if you layered something with it to reinforce what notes are actually being played, I think that you'll get both Beth of the both worlds. And that's sick. This little section that just happened. Where was it? I don't even know. I lost myself. Oh yeah, right here. To me, when you're going this like fill section with the vocal thing that's going up in the octave, I kind of feel like it wants to not be playing the root note there. It almost feels like it wants to play 2 semitones down or 4 semitones down or something. Like to me, it feels like this right here, this like little section should be a little bit more musical than just playing the tonic. And then obviously you go back to hitting the tonic right after it. But I feel like if you got away from the tonic and played something like I said, either 2 or 4, maybe 4. I don't know if 4 would sound good or not. Dun, 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 dun. Ah. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. Yeah, I think 4. Maybe 4 semitones. Because it kind of sounds like it's trying to do something musical there, but the bass wubs are just playing the root note. I don't know what it means to become a TikTok audio, but that sounds like it might be a good and bad thing. So this like crazy respace thing, I almost wonder if you should have like a low pass on it that's opening and closing or something, so it's not so just wide open the whole time. It might be better. It might be best the way you have it, but I would maybe try it to see if you kind of got rid of some, because the vocal is trying to cut through, but you have this like massively bright bass sound. So I'm just wondering if maybe a low pass that was moving around a bit might help there. Yeah, and I think it should be intense, but I just think that if you're trying to have the vocal cut through at the same time, then that might be one way to still have it be intense but make room for the vocal, and might also kind of sound cooler if it's like kind of like coming in and out with the low pass. And then I don't know, you probably need like an outro, or I don't really know. I don't know if you need an outro or not. To me, it kind of probably should like wind down just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a huge DJ outro or anything like that, but it just kind of like seems like it ends a little bit abruptly. Overall, it sounds dope, dude. Really good. I would just try to, yeah, maybe try to inject a little bit more tonality into those sounds that are very like kind of noise. Okay, cool. This one is Stella Lind, Wildfire Fowler Feedback.
From a burning room, I would have chosen you as the one that saved in my place. I've been more than I could.
Okay, the edit right here on this breath.
I've been more.
It sounds unnatural. I think this might be over reverbed.
I've been more than I could chew. Set the the fire in you and pushed you off the rails. I wrote history for you too, found the thing you never knew, made up the stories you tell her when she can't sleep at night. Not that I'm bitter, trust me.
Yeah, I hear comping. Like,
Not that I'm bitter,
I feel like that's an edit in the vocal.
not that I'm bitter.
I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the way she said it.
Not that I'm bitter, trust me, I'm not. Burn the village down, burn it with the kings.
She has a great voice. I feel like the music in this is very quiet. I feel like this is acapella 0.5. Like, it's mostly an acapella. I think if I were you, I'd dry the vocals out significantly. I'd bring the piano up in the mix significantly, and I'd try to make it sound like maybe keep, depending on how noisy the vocal take is, maybe keep the audio in between her lines, because the track feels like it's very intimate. It's mostly just her. The reverb kind of ruins that a little bit. Like, if you think about like a Billie Eilish song, there's very little reverb in most of that. Like the what's a good example? There's that one song that's really kind of really sad sounding. Like, she kind of sounds very Billie Eilish. So maybe listen to some Billie Eilish and pay attention to the production and the stuff that's happening on the vocals, because this seems very much down that alley. Or power, is that a track?
Sin is human, fire is catching. Let the fire arm around the bare-faced liar.
Let's hear it.
Lose your power. I know we didn't choose to change.
So this actually has quite a bit of reverb on it as well, but not as much as what you have in yours.
And how could you? Will you only feel bad when they find out if you could take it all back? Would you try not to abuse your power? I know
So that's an interesting example, because that vocal is quite reverbed. It does have quite a bit of reverb, but
sin is human, fire is cat.
not nearly as much as this. This almost sounds like it's like 50% reverb. Let me try.
So criminal. Bruises on both my knees for you, don't say.
There's zero reverb on that. That's kind of more what I was thinking of. Not that track and this track are really related style-wise, but just vocal processing-wise.
The fire arm around the bare-faced liar. The girl who loved you turned into a wildfire. I did pray, didn't I? Told you every reason why I cried. Sick of how we used to be.
Okay, so finally, I kind of felt like you can maybe get away with the vocal. It's I don't know how to explain it. Maybe meandering a little bit. Like let me listen to this one more time.
From a burning room.
I guess what I'm lacking is I'm not really hearing like a discernible melody. She's kind of singing in key, but I'm waiting to hear kind of like a repeating melody or a theme or a motif or something like that. And I feel like we're starting to get it here.
I did pray, didn't I? Told you every reason why I cried. Sick of how we used to be. Eyes rotted like the apple you handed to me. Burn the village down.
Yeah, so like this section here, I'm starting to kind of like I'm picking up the motif, I'm picking up the theme. But up until this point, it sounds like she's trying to figure out the melody in a way. And you can kind of get away with that for a certain amount of time, I find. You know, you could have a couple lines where you're going off and you're exploring the melodic options and possibilities and stuff, but you kind of have to get to the motif a little sooner, I think. And I don't really know, cuz you know, cutting out this amount of words, I'm not sure what that does to the song, but from a listener's point of view, it might not make sense kind of like lyrically or chronologically, but getting to that way sooner. This is by far, this section is really good. And the reverb actually kind of feels right in this section where there's like the harmonies and it's kind of swelling up and it fills out the track a bit more. The reverb doesn't necessarily sound wrong there, but we had to wait a really long time to get to that section. So if there's any way that you can cut out a bunch of this and get to that section sooner, I think you'll have to spread out these meandering melodies a little bit throughout the track if you have to use them. I feel like she has a great voice, but I don't feel like the melody is that strong until we get to this section. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, but we're like a minute and a half into the track. I think that's probably, I think the arrangement overall takes too long to get here. I don't know how important every single one of these lines are. And I don't know if maybe some of these lines could go at a different part of the song per se to condense this down. But I do think that nailing down a more solid melody structure and sticking to it a little bit tighter is probably a good move.
The ashes have found their grave and the lost have made their way, but I'm still standing as the river takes it all away. The burning endless eye, have you not learned how to lie, or do you enjoy the hurt you put yourself out for? My baby, the mind you have, why can't you see the one?
Yeah, it's almost like, this is kind of what it seems like to me. This is one step above spoken kind of spoken word poetry. And then from here on, we got a pretty solid song. The mix is a bit off. The music is very quiet compared to how loud her voice is. And the reverb is still very aggressive. I think the reverb might work in this one section because it's kind of like a stylistic choice. It's kind of like you're using the reverb as almost like an instrument. But then the rest of the track, the reverb is just, it kind of feels like it's put on there to kind of like woo add some style, but it doesn't really sound appropriate to me. In that one section, it sounds quite good because it's like this big, almost like choir thing. I'm not saying it needs to be totally dry, but I do think that there's a bit too much reverb, and I do think that the instrumentation and the rest of the track, the backing track, is about a mile below the vocals in terms of loudness. Yeah, this is really good. Like once it gets into it, it's really good. The other thing you could do too is think about the reverb as a way of adding some interesting contrast. Certain sections, like where she comes in with the harmonies and stuff, maybe they're reverbed out, but the stuff leading up to them aren't reverbed out. So now there's like this interesting contrast, like you're making a statement with the reverb as opposed to just kind of like blindly applying it to the whole vocal track.
Turned
Yeah, like the track almost just the song gets like exponentially better almost in every way as it goes throughout the track. I did not expect this when I started listening.
From a burning room.
So I know that's a lot of kind of all over the place advice. But what I will say is the first half of the track is just a little too slow paced. It's not very melodically interesting. It feels it's a bit boring. It drags on, and then when you start getting into this section, all of a sudden the melodies are great. The singing, I mean, like her voice sounds great throughout the track. Just if the overall, but builds like the meaning of the lyrics. Yeah, oops. Yeah, that's why I'm saying like maybe it doesn't make sense to cut stuff out. But maybe if the vocal melody had a bit more structure and maybe like, these two lines are a certain kind of melody, or I guess maybe these three lines, and then maybe like it goes to like a different structure but kind of the same kind of cadence or melodic structure or something like that, and then it goes back to that. Just something to make it a bit more predictable, because I feel like I'm just kind of being led by my hand through a field of melodies that are in the key of whatever the key the song is in. Once it gets to the stuff with the band, all of a sudden it's like so much better. So I don't know. These are all things to think on. I would definitely dry her vocals out in this first section at least a little bit. You don't have to go full dry, but I think right now they almost feel like they're being treated as if it's like this big anthemic chorus, but there's only one vocal take singing a very intimate part. And the next thing is the vocals are way louder than the instruments, so I think you gotta get the balance between the vocals and the instruments a little bit better. Take direction from the melody at the end. Yeah, I think so. I don't know how to necessarily rewrite this melody properly to keep the meaning of the song and fit all the words in and stuff, but I do know that melodically it wasn't very strong until it got here.
Burn the village down, burn away.
Then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I can almost predict what the next note is going to be. Like it makes more sense musically and is a little less free form and arbitrary. So anyway, that's what I think. I think it's really, really, she's got a great voice, and the track gets really good at the end, but nobody's going to hear the end if they skip the first. So you got to make the first part compelling, maybe in its own way, maybe not in a big band way like it is at the end, maybe more in an intimate way. Maybe the piano is more up front and you can like hear the noises of the piano and stuff like that. Maybe the vocal is dried out quite a bit and you can kind of hear her like her breath a little bit more, and it's not as edited, and maybe it has its own charm but in an intimate way, and then that leads you to this next part, and now this has its own charm but in this big melodic way. It's just that this first part, again, it just kind of feels a little too meandering for me. So that's what I think. Okay, so it's called Only the Beat. I'm assuming there's no vocal. I mean, like, this is a cool beat. I don't know if there's going to be vocals on it or something. It's very bouncy. It's interesting. It's entertaining. It's got a little bit of mystery and drama to it. It's cool, but without vocals, I'm assuming there's maybe going to be vocals or something. That is like very deep. That's almost like speaker destruction territory. I think it's pretty sick, honestly. I think that if it had vocals. I mean speaker destruction territory because it's almost giving my speaker DC like a DC voltage because of how low frequency it is. And it wouldn't actually destroy your speaker, but if you put DC voltage on a, like DC meaning not a, it doesn't move, it's just like 5 volts or 10 volts or whatever, then it's just, the speaker becomes just a coil of wire that gets hot. And because it's kind of going up and sticking there for a certain amount of time and then coming down and sticking there for a certain amount of time, that's almost like DC, 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 DC because of how long it's holding a flat voltage on it. But the amplifier wouldn't allow that to happen. So it's not actually going to hurt your speakers. I mean, if you turn it up loud enough, it might hurt it because of just how aggressive it is, but not because of the DC voltage. It kind of has all of like the tropes of like the trap music, like the only thing it hasn't had so far is the wheel up sound. And there's that weird glitch. I noticed it a couple times. Right here. I hear it there too. I'm not sure if this is maybe a loop or something, but there's every once in a while there's this weird little glitch in the audio. Oh, I feel it. No, it's weird. To me it sounds like maybe a time stretch thing or maybe a cut or something. I don't necessarily think it's intentional. Maybe it is. Because I hear it, but it didn't sound intentional here. Because it almost sounds like this high frequency clip. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I think the beat is cool. I think that it needs to either have a vocal or some sort of cut up vocal or some sort of interesting hook thing. I feel like you have created a really unique trap beat, but it needs something on top of it now to complete the package. Because otherwise, it's a cool beat. But if it has something else on it, then maybe it would be a cool song. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I don't really have any issues. There's that weird clip sound. The only issue I have is that it just doesn't feel complete without like something. So, okay, this one's No Call Face Rip. Wow. All right, that's sick. That's a really good drop. Everything is 0 dB loudness, but doesn't feel over compressed somehow. So that's really good. The one complaint I would have is the brass hits. I don't know. I feel like we got to wait until they become cool again. I've just heard them so many times. Dun dun dun. I don't know. Like, it's not the end of the world, and maybe you're doing it on purpose to kind of, it's like almost like a throwback sound, but I feel like there's so many other interesting sounds that could be used. And if I'm nitpicking, that would be the nitpick. Let's keep going. You could also probably have like some sort of melody in here. Like there's big room for something. Dun, 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 dun. Like, there's room and it's almost like kind of missing it. You're kind of hinting at some melodies with the little plucky things, but it's not being a melody. It's just hinting at one. Check. I wonder what this section would be like if you didn't have the nuance in the background of there's like almost like a ride cymbal. And there's like a square wave, detuned square wave thing. There's some subtleties there, and I'm wondering if you dropped without the subtleties and brought the subtleties in after, if it would just hit a little harder. Because those subtle sounds in the background almost take away from like how raw and like upfront and kind of fuck you the rest of the sounds are. There's that wheel. There's like a weird, like an octave thing that goes up. I think it should be louder because it's really cool. Right there. Yeah. On the snare hit. It's a really cool sound. I think it should be louder in the mix. Sick song though. I really like it. Maybe a melody, maybe strip out some of the nuances, maybe change it the brass. Those are my suggestions. Thank you for sending. Okay, let's listen to the Fred song, Happy Accidents. This sounds like I'm like hacking into the mainframe. Like I'm like late 80s. I'm Hackerman 9000. It's like the what was that? I'll think of it while I listen. Kung Fury. It's very Kung Fury.
talent, Bob, to do what you're doing. That's baloney. Talent is a pursued interest. In other words, anything that you're willing to practice, you can do.
Yeah, this is really good. Okay, I had an idea.
Don't have the talent, Bob, to do, in other words, anything you're...
I wonder what, when you drop, this kind of still feels like a build-up to me. I wonder if you tightened up the envelope on the the arpeggio thing. What if it was, because you drop with like that riser and the doodle thing is still kind of with a wide open filter, maybe not wide open, but like it's not a pluck, it's a synth, I guess you would call it. I expected it. I expected it to drop a little bit more like this. But everything being super tight and plucky. Like nice thick bass, but really tight pluck. Because leading up to it, everything is so like wide open and sustained and bright and loose. And I was like, man, I hope this drops and goes super tight with a little tiny clap. Like, I don't know. And then this happens. You know what I mean? Because this sounds like, this almost feels like the second half of the drop. Maybe it's mostly because of the riser. But I don't know. What would it be like if there was a drop before this, right after this? Nice thick bass, but tight plucks. Maybe try it. Okay, let's keep going.
Anything that you want, you can build here. This is your world. Your dreams become real here. And I don't have the talent, Bob, to do what you're doing. That's baloney. Talent is a pursued interest. In other words, anything that you're willing to practice, you can do. And this is no exception. We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
I kind of feel the same way about this too. This feels like the second half of this drop. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it won't sound as good if you drop tight. But like, I still, like, I expect it to be like super tight and bassy and plucky. And then that. Ah, shit. I think it's sick. I think that it's almost like a bridge in like a normal song, like not like a dance song. It's almost like a bridge where it's like different. And to me, I think it's sick. I think what it should do is it should do that and build up and do one more of one of the other drops that we're familiar with after it as kind of like to finish it off. But I don't know, dude. I think you should at least think about dropping each of the drops with like a very tight plucky sound and then developing it up into what you have now as the second half of the drop. Because the whole track is so loud and it's great, but it would be such a good contrast if it's right nice and fucking tight and bassy. It's really good though. I like this track. This is my favorite Fred track that I've heard in a while. It makes me want to drive faster than this speed limit. Okay, last one of the day, Power Breaker by M Kilo, MK1 I don't know how to say that. Let's have a listen. Yeah, I like this. It's like it reminds me of some complextro electro from days gone by. What's this saying? Not days gone by, because that's a song. From times of old, from previous hours. I don't know. I think you should have a drum fill or something here. It kind of goes from like high pass riser sound, and then all of a sudden it's just right into it. I think like at least a cha-cha-tu, you know? So I will say that the kick drum, the transient on the kick drum is very loud, and I think it's stopping the rest of the kick drum from being loud, because if I try to find an isolated kick drum, or at least a semi-isolated kick drum, I mean, I feel like this is right. Yeah. So like this space in here, I think is because you have this really loud click or transient on the start of the kick drum, and you can't really turn it up beyond that, because then it's going to smoke the limiter too hard. But the rest of the kick drum kind of isn't as loud, and you actually have this kind of like pumping thing happening. It doesn't sound as bad as it looks, I will definitely say that, but I think that the way that it looks is it's kind of indicating a potential improvement that you can make. Oh wait, here's a kick drum here. Oh, never mind. I guess my theory is wrong, because that transient doesn't go to 0. Maybe the kick drum could just come up in loudness. I feel like maybe instead of the kick drum coming up in loudness, the basses should come down in loudness, and then everything should come up. And I mean, like, you could argue that that's the same thing, but to me, the way it sounds doesn't necessarily bother me, but I would be interested to see what it sounds like if the kick drum was as loud as the bass, because right here we can see a kick drum, right? Which is, holy fuck, is it ever not compressed, but distorted, which is whatever, like that's the sound. But I just feel like this the bass is taking up so much. I make automate on different parts. I just wonder what it would sound like. So do you have all of your crazy bass wubs going into a single bus? Because what I would do is I'd send them into a bus, and then I'd just bring I'd watch your master limiter, and I'd bring your bass down until the master limiter's kind of getting tickled by the kick and the bass about the same or ish. So that might be taking, taking your bass, all your basses, bringing them down, I don't know, 3 decibels, and then bringing your master limiter back down again. And that way you're basically bringing everything up, and you might gain 3 decibels. The basses are the same amplitude, but everything else comes up a little bit. Might be something, because when I see this kind of empty spot, you shouldn't mix based on visuals, because people don't listen to stuff with their eyeballs. But when you see this, it's kind of like, maybe I should try to get rid of that and see what it sounds like. Maybe it sounds best the way it is, but also maybe it's worth turning those basses down a little bit so that you can turn everything up, and all of a sudden the kick is more present, although the transient is... It's not really the transient that's the problem. It's kind of it's like this, maybe it's the side. I don't know. I would just, now that you've seen this, and I know that, as we're working on tracks, we don't typically look at the waveform on the master bus, but like, now that you see this, you might try to play with either the sidechain length, but it sounds good. I don't know. I don't really have a huge issue with the way it sounds. I'm just curious to see if it would be a bit better if you were able to bring those basses down and get them more in line with the amplitude of the kick drum. Yeah, it's a cool track though. It really does take me back. I will say that right off the top, the sound of that, basically like that, I bet you there's 8 to maybe 6 to 10 unison voices of a sawtooth going through a 24 dB per octave low pass filter with a little bit of resonance, and then the envelope has a bit of an attack on it, and it's going drone 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 drone, like it's just a bit too... I like what it's doing, but sound design wise, I can kind of like explain it to you in one sentence how to make it. And not to say that you have to make things complex for the sake of being complex, but I didn't really expect much when I heard that start. I was just kind of like, oh, that's a little like basic, like I thought, oh, this is basic. But then when it got to the drop, I was like, all right, no, this is actually not basic. It's quite complex, Tro. So I don't know. I think your intro is a little misleading, and maybe it was like done in a tongue-in-cheek way or on purpose to kind of like have some sort of contrast. But I think that if somebody wasn't aware of this track in its entirety, or aware of you and your capabilities, and they listened to the intro, they might be like, this is not, they might skip the song, because I don't think it's an accurate representation. It's a little cheeky, and maybe as like a breakdown section after you've already shown that like the track is powerful and loud and interesting and well produced, then maybe it would be kind of funny to have a little like, a little throwback to a simpler time where synths sounded just basic like that. But right off the top, I don't know. I think that's probably my biggest piece of advice or feedback on this, is that the intro doesn't really pull me in and make me want to listen to the rest of the song. Yes, it establishes the chord progression and the melody. But besides that, it's not really tickling my eardrums in the sound design department. So maybe rethink your approach on the intro. But besides that, it's a cool track. I really, like I said, it takes me back to like, I don't know, stuff I was making in the mid to 2010s or something like that. But better. Okay, cool. That's it. Now I'm going to go see my friend Dan, who actually did one of the feedback streams with me. He's he's putting out a new song and he's having a listening party, which I haven't gone to a listening party in a very long time. So that's why I did this early, so that I had time to go home and probably shower before I went there. Most people are born after 2010. Most people are born after 2010. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. Most people are born after 2010. Like statistically, I think it is wrong, Will. I think that most people were born before 2010. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you. I'll do some research. Okay, I love you all. Have a good weekend and goodbye.